Yeah. Well, I'm obviously director of Vision Factory. We're a small company based in Devon that sort of in the UK that creative directs, designs, and builds shows for all different types of genres. So on this show, we sort of created, directed, lit, and designed the stage for Parkway Drive's current arena tour. Um, uh, we been going for about 6 years now, and yeah, we just do an eclectic group of music. Really, we're not one genre. We like the challenge of going from one different type of music style to the next. So, and we basically just do the creative vision for the band or the DJ or whoever wants to have something crazy on their stage. It's the simplest and easiest way to say it.
All right, is it all, Sam? Thanks for your time, mate. It's a pleasure speaking with you today.
Great. You too.
So, Parkway Drive have almost finished the 20 anniversary tour at the moment. So, you guys have played a big part in it. So, but firstly, how are the shows been going?
Yeah, it's been great. I think the audience has taken I guess, step up in their production levels, in the right sort of mindset. I think people weren't expecting Parkway to bring this level of production uh, into especially Australia's shows, but also what they're planning to do for the rest of their cycle. So, yeah, it's been really nicely accepted, really, which is great for us.
Yeah. Now, you touched on this briefly in the intro, mate, but you run Vision Factory, which is responsible for pretty much everything you saw on stage at the shows. So, give us a bit of a history on Vision Factory and what it is you actually do.
Yeah, so I started Vision Factory with a degree in lighting design for theatre, and then started working with a few electronic artists in the UK, and that sort of snowballed into what we have today, which is international creative agency that designs. We're like the idea people. We come up with the initial thought processes, the technical drawings of how to implement it, and then we there for the delivery as well. We specialize in stage mainly, but yeah. So we work really closely with Parkway, the band, their production management team, and all the other crew members that are all involved and very important to the show, to make sure the show is what the band and ourselves envision, really.
Yeah. And how did you become to be involved with this particular tour?
With this tour, Luke, the guitarist, he reached out to me on an email. Simple
Yeah,
as that.
right.
And then we helped program his their summer festival tour this year. It was another designer, and we just did the programming, and then we were brought in fully to do the full creative on this arena tour. So yeah.
So in a nutshell, like you created a one of a kind apocalyptic landscape as part of Parkway Drive stage setup. So how difficult was that to do? Like I went to the Brisbane show and it's pretty impressive, mate. How difficult was it?
Um, I guess it's not too difficult for me. I'm the ideas guy. It's probably more difficult for the production team have to put it in and out every day because the touring cycle is very difficult. But yeah, the show sort of has been evolved. Luke and Winston and the rest of the band had a very strong vision of what they wanted at the start. They wanted something that was very scenic based and not video screen based, as we are constantly involved with shows with just big screens at the back, and we wanted something different. Um, and then from there, we sort of took that idea of a physical being and created this monolithic bridge sort of thing with a set designer that I work with really closely called Floor Harvey. Um, and then from there, it just sort of spiraled into this crazy rock opera sort of show that everybody sort of is really enjoying at the moment, including ourselves.
And you mentioned that the boys from the band were involved, but how hands-on were they during the whole process? You know, like, were they over your shoulder going like, no, 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 this is what we want? You know, like, what was their
Uh,
level of involvement?
I think it came with the initial brief. Obviously, what I like to do with Vision Factory is I like to present my sort of aesthetic and themes that I think that would work well for them, just to make sure we're aligned in sort of the same thing. Nothing worse than working with another creative who doesn't see eye to eye. Luckily, they did. So then from there, they sort of gave me a bigger brief, some ideas that they loved, and then I came back with this bridge idea, this monolithic world, and then basically from there we would come back with concept renders and drawings and ideas, and then they would chime in and add their ideas to the show and see what's possible and what isn't possible. And it's a really collaborative process. I couldn't say, you know, Winston wanted the idea of this cool mic stand, but didn't know what the mic stand was. So we went and did some research, came back with like the thorns, and then that progressed into this thing that's on stage. And that's the same with pretty much every department. Um, the guys know exactly what they want when it comes to pyro, but when it comes to lighting and staging, they just need a little bit of someone else's ideas to go with it. Um,
So from when you actually first started work on the project to completion, how long
mhm.
was it? Like how long is the process?
I think they reached out to us in March. So it's been 6 month process, probably, I would say, from initial ideas all the way down to programming and delivery. Yeah.
And then what's the actual set made of? Is it made of proper steel and stuff like that?
Yeah, it's a metal framed scenic set piece. It's cladded in wood, and then it's scenically dressed to look like an apocalyptic bridge. It's for easy tourability, really.
Um, and so you sort of touched on this before too, but live shows are normally highlighted by visuals and effects, like especially screens at the back and that. But for this one, you focused on the particular theme. So is it the first time you've done something like this?
No, it's not. It's not the first time. I. The more, I guess, the more we go and do the bigger shows, the more I become more reluctant to add a screen unless it's really needed. Especially with this show, we wanted to create like a super dynamic performance, such as rather than just watching a band play. So we wanted to like really rely heavily on lighting and like the scenic world and the depth it can make. So yeah, we just didn't feel the need, and the band definitely didn't feel the need to have a screen there either. So which is, I think is sometimes can take distraction or take your focals away from the band, and you start just watching a TV at the end of a room rather than watching them actually perform. Um, so that was one of the rationales for not having screens and that kind of stuff.
And now, like you've finished your part of the tour, you were saying before, like now you've actually seen everything close up and it's been through the process on stage. Like, do you consider it a success?
Yeah, I think so. I think it's like I said, it's my first Parkway Drive arena show or first full scale Parkway Drive show of them festivals. So it's been a bit of an awakening for me. But I think everybody's loving it. Online is reaching back to the UK, it's reaching across to America. I've getting a lot of messages, so I feel like it has been success, and it's a really I enjoy it. I've watched the show every night for the last, I don't know, 2.5 weeks. I'm still not bored of it, so that's got to be something, right?
Are you a metal fan, mate, or is it not really your sort of
No,
music?
I like a bit of metal, yeah. But again, we work with so many different genres. I don't think I could be like I just listen to metal.
Oh, cool. Another key component is the use of natural elements such as fire, water, wind, and earth to accentuate the music. So
Yeah.
that was taking a lot of planning. Like everything's got to be just right for something like that, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. It does. Like, for example, a very, very important part, and Fish, who's the production manager, is very, very crucial to making these parts happen. Like, we can come up with the crazy ideas, but like for example, collecting the water when it rains on the B stage, that's also a lift where the drum kit comes out of, and that also burns on fire. And there's guys underneath there for the whole show, putting stuff together and sending dancers up. So, um, we got to make sure that all those elements sit nicely within each other, and bringing that into a touring environment, especially across Australia, is obviously a difficult thing to do. But I think it's as you can when that rain comes up for the first time and you hear the crowd go like, you know, it's worth it, I think.
I know I was sitting there looking at it. I was trying to figure out whether it was real water or not, or whether it was some sort of effect. But is
No,
that the water?
yeah, it's real water. Yeah, it really rains on the stage. Yeah, that's right.
And then so what were some of the highlights for you, like when you're sitting back there watching it yourself, even though you knew what was coming and only knew how it had been put together, what was
Yeah.
some of the highlights for you?
Well, one of them was the dancers. At the start, I would say that some of us were maybe not too sure about it, because obviously you don't really see them on an environment like this. But I feel they really add to it, especially during Cemetery at the start. It just gives a little bit more of a storyline to the show. Um, and just I think overall, just like it feels like a giant build up from the start of the show to obviously crushed while Winston's on his floating stage and there's fire coming out of it. You know, the whole show just starts getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and sort of ends with crushed and then has this really nice moment that sort of takes you back to the start to finish the show off at the end. So I feel like just the whole story and the way it all goes into each other is being worked in, and that's down to the band and choosing the right set list and stuff like that. So yeah.
And which part of it was the hardest for you to get right?
Uh Hardest to get right. Lighting it. You can that space is beautiful and it looks great, but also trying to keep the continuous energy of what Parkway Drive produces with their music, with programming sort of a theater looking show is quite complicated. And there's hundreds and well, there's actually thousands of cues in the lighting desk that is continuously triggered to make sure you still feel like you're at a rock gig, but also it looks, I would guess, a little bit different than you would usually expect.
Yeah. And I suppose the band would have had to have a few run throughs on the stage to make sure everything was correct. Like,
Yeah.
did you make any last minute adjustments?
There's always adjustments every day. Every day we have feedback from the band and we do tweaks and stuff. You know, we did a week or a few 8 days or so in production rehearsals. So we build the whole arena in a warehouse away from fans, and we just rehearse and tweak and change and go, oh, does that work? Does that doesn't work? You know, it's quite a collaborative process, and everybody's in the room trying to do the best. So,
And I guess like parts of it, they had to actually act in a sense in some parts of it to sort of make it look good. So how are Parkway Drivers actors? Are they way better musicians than actors?
I don't know. I'm not saying that. I'll let them. You know, uh, I think Winston plays the character very well, and especially given the confidence with the dancers as well. I think that's a strong new element to the show. And I think as the boy, you can see over the last few shows, the boys have really started enjoying playing on that stage space. So that's nice for us to see.
I suppose like they'd have to be because like with the fire and stuff, like they'd have to make sure they weren't standing where the
Yeah,
fire's going to come stuff. So like it's an added element for the band because A, they are acting in certain spots, but B, they've got to be mindful not to stuff up, I guess. So like it's
yeah,
sort of would be an easy thing for them to get their head around to start off with.
yeah. It is, but I think Parkway, the boys have been very used to playing with heaps of pyro and flames in the past. So I think having that, telling them where to stand to make sure they don't get their faces burnt off is quite a regular thing for them. But I think the stage is much grander than they're probably used to with the B stage and the lifts and all the rest of the stuff that's there. Is you probably get you got to get used to the space and make sure you don't trip over the soil and whatever else you have to do.
Mm. Was there anything that they wanted on this set that was physically impossible? Like, was there anything you had to say no to?
They actually said no to me on a few things, and I got
Oh,
it
did
in
they?
the so yeah, that bridge was well, they weren't too sure about it, but I managed to persuade them. But no, I think the show is exactly what we envisioned it to be. And I am very much looking forward to taking this to other places if they're going to do that and developing the show into a place where it keeps on. I think it's going to evolve the show. I don't think it's ever going to stay in one place. So that'd be good to find out.
So the Parkway Drive tour is done for you. You're off home shortly. So what's
Yep.
next? What's next for Vision Factory?
What's next for us? We are flying to Los Angeles very soon to build the new Dom Dollar show, which is never an Australian client of ours. So uh,
Nice. And it's just say someone from bands are in the crowd watching and they're like, we want to have a crack at these guys. Like, how do they get in contact with you?
find our website, vision-factory.co.uk, and that's us.
Fantastic, Sam. All right. Well, thanks for your time, mate. It's been a pleasure speaking with you. It was a fascinating and beautiful production, mate. Like I say, we were in Brisbane. We were in awe watching it. So congratulations, well done, and
Thanks,
welcome
Chris.
to Australia.